You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Time to fire up the VCR. This one's my favorite. That was gold.
Welcome to Analog Jones in the Temple of Film. I'm Steve.
And I'm Matt.
And we're a VHS podcast that looks at the box art, trailers, and behind the scenes. And this week, we're finishing off our sports? Related movies. Matt, tell us the canon film that's ended in February.
We are taking a look at 1987's Over the Top.
What are the odds on Lincoln Hawks pitch?
20-1, pal, with a long shot.
Hawks, let's go.
The world meets nobody halfway. Remember that.
I don't have a father, sir.
The world has always bet against Lincoln Hawks.
This guy's nothing.
Why'd you leave us?
It won't happen again.
I want my grandson found. I don't care how you do it. Do it.
But a winner never listens to the odds.
Whatever happens, I want you to stay with him. Where do we end up?
Together is all I can guarantee.
You ain't got a prayer in Vegas.
You never had anything, so you have nothing to lose.
All I want to do is hurt him, cripple him, get him off the table.
All I care about is you. You're my boy, you understand?
The world beats nobody halfway. Now is the time to do for yourself.
I'm all you.
Over the top, Dad! Over the top!
Sylvester Stallone, Over the Top.
Woo! Here we go. I'm turning my baseball cap backwards because, Matt, we got to go to work.
Yeah, it's we got to fight for our lives here.
Yeah, that's right. The movie that inspired every child to be a truck driving, arm wrestling badass. You remember that? You remember that huge hype that we had? You know, Rocky brought on all the boxing, and then we had Over the Top, where all the kids in the playground wanted to be arm wrestling champions.
Well, I wasn't alive in 1987, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that didn't quite happen.
Whoa. Are you saying I'm lying right now?
I'm saying you have bought into the Canon marketing machine, and I don't know if this is globally taken over as much as they thought and hoped it would.
Then explain why I'm wearing a Van Halen shirt and you're wearing a Frank Stallone shirt.
That's just because that's what we wear just on the regular.
Oh, this movie is wacky.
This is the 80s like time capsule in a film. This is what sweaty late 80s dude movies looked like. Like if you're ever like, hey, what did 1987 look like just in general as a year? Just put this movie in, crank the soundtrack, and just watch the sweat glisten off of all these jacked dudes.
No kidding. There's so much sweat in this movie. Like people don't even have to do anything and they're just sweating.
Yeah, it's a wet movie. Everybody's wet all the time. They haven't even started their arm wrestling match yet and they're soaked. They're just soaked through.
Now a little bit of history. I watched this a little bit as a kid. It didn't really excite us, but I remember it being on around wrestling. And speaking of wrestling, did you notice Terry Funk?
Yeah, Terry Funk goes through a window in this movie. Terry Funk. I always I came in to wrestling, later. I wasn't into wrestling in the 80s because I wasn't alive for most of the 80s. But I came into it later, and just Terry Funk was always so sad, late in his career, he just had such sadness in his eyes.
Well, I remember he had to do a lot of the hardcore wrestling in WWF/WWE, and it was always he was falling on tacks.
Yes.
He had to be crazy because he was older. So that's how he had to stay in the biz. That's how I would assume.
Yeah,
but
and
he was
felt bad for him.
crazy. He was crazy his entire career.
Yeah, no, and he seems to not be as sad in this movie, but just like my memories of Terry Funk are always just like feeling bad for him.
Yeah, I would feel bad for someone who like has to fall on fucking nails and rusty tacks. It's
At
gross.
like 60 years old, yeah.
I need to pay my bills.
Yeah, right.
Oh, now let's turn away from that depression. Love you, Terry Funk.
So I had never seen this movie. I was well aware of it. I know that this is like the arm wrestling movie. I know this is a canon movie. I know this is a Stallone Cobra-esque vehicle here. I know what it is, but I had never seen it. But I knew so much about it that like really nothing was a surprise for me watching this movie.
Well, yeah, we watched it a couple times in college because I had a friend who was huge into this. I fucking loved it. When you'd mention this movie, he'd just be like, yeah, it's the greatest movie I've ever seen. And I admit, we had fun watching it in college a couple times. But it's not like it was like Rocky IV fun. It was more just like, wow, this is a real thing fun.
Yeah, obviously, I think for me, I prefer Cobra over this because of Cobra's just sheer ridiculousness. Like,
yeah,
Cobra is more over the top than over the top is.
Plus, you're really big into toothpicks.
Yes, I love chewing toothpicks and wearing sunglasses during the daytime.
So it's you were a little biased towards Cobra.
Yes, because it's how I live my life.
Yeah, every day.
Yes.
Oh, directed by Menahem Golan. Is that how you pronounce his name? Menahem?
Yes, Menahem Golan of the Golan and Globus duo of canon.
He's a beautiful man. Not in appearance. I mean, in his entire career is just fucking ridiculous.
But you said that he had actually just come off of directing a couple good ones for canon before he did this one.
Yeah, it was odd. I was surprised. In '85, he did Runaway Train, which we
literally talked about last week.
Which might be the best canon film, honestly. It's just... Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it because I would love to review it, especially with you, just to let you experience what could have been in the canon pictures. And then we had Delta Force, which is also one of the most canon films canon ever created.
Yeah, and it was a huge hit. I never seen that one either, though. So
it's nuts.
I haven't seen much of the Golan catalog, so
no,
I got some work to do. I've seen the other canon movies that they were least involved with, I feel like.
Yeah, it's Chuck Norris at its finest.
Yeah, haven't seen a lot of Chucks. I think I talked about that in our Braddock episode, which you can go back and listen to. Yeah, I don't know much about the Chuck Norris catalog, so I missed Delta Force. And I talked about last week, I've never seen Runaway Train. So this might be one of my early experiences with a Golan-directed production. And man, does he like having everything be glisteny.
Yeah, a lot of sweat. So, do you want to break down this beautiful box art?
Yeah, this is kind of a wonderful box art here. We get giant letters right at the top, Stallone. This is back in the day. Kids who maybe didn't grow up with these movies, we used to be able to sell movies alone on Stars. We can't do that anymore. Everything has to be concept or franchise these days to sell a movie. But back in the day, you could just slap a person's last name on a movie and it would sell.
Yeah, and Canon was really good at least trying that on everyone. You know, you had the Bronsons, you had the Chuck Norrises, and then they got Stallone for a little bit. I'm sure there's someone there I'm missing. I don't know. No, yeah. Maybe not.
Well, did they... No. I mean, they tried with other stars, like you said, but I feel like those are kind of their bigs.
Yeah, those are the big ones they signed on, especially Chuck Norris and Bronson.
But so we get Stallone's name bigger than life at the top, and then it just says Rocky, Rambo, Cobra. They had to put their Cobra in there. And now Hawk in the biggest fight of his life. And then we get one of those, like, we talked about it in the movie Death Wish 4, one of those distorted angles where his fist is coming towards you, but instead of it, like, the perspective necessarily working, it just looks like he has a giant arm.
Yeah, this one's a little bit better, but it's still not good.
And yeah, it's Stallone. He's got his elbow wrapped and he's got his fist coming out, ready for an arm wrestling battle. And of course, he's fucking jacked and has like a tiny little wife beater on.
Yeah.
And then flying behind him is, of course, the Hawk, which is what he has on his truck. And underneath him is his truck just like slamming through the fucking poster. And it says over the top.
All right, sidebar. We're sidebarring this right here. One, is his last name, I know it says Hawk there, but is it Hawks or Hawk? Because Netflix has, I mean, not Netflix, I'm sorry, Wikipedia has Hawk. The box has Hawk, but in the movie, they call him Hawks all the time.
I think it's supposed to be Hawk, and then people called him Hawks, and they just left it in. They were just like, it's fine.
I was getting so confused.
I'm pretty sure it's just Hawk, because on the back of the box it says Hawk. Yeah, in the cast list it says Hawk. Mm-hmm. It's got to be, it's just fucking coked up actors just being like, Hawks!
And then the second sidebar here. On the front of this cover, when it shows the truck, I guess, like, not really busting through the VHS, but it's just, like, trapped, behind him. I thought that was an American flag, like, draped over it. And now that I look at it, there's no American flag on this. I just made it up.
It's the kind of movie that would absolutely have an American flag draped over the truck, though. Because
I kind of wish it did, but there wasn't enough America. Because Rocky IV was just, like, drenched in America.
Yeah, this one isn't violently Americana, which was kind of nice, actually.
And I believe Golan was trying to make this the Rocky IV of canon.
They were trying to make like an exciting sports movie. That's why we're talking about it this month. And a sports movie for a sport that isn't a sport.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe this. I looked it up. It is arm wrestling, the International Arm Wrestling Federation, whatever they call it. It's real.
Yeah, but nobody cares. You know what I mean?
No.
I believe it's real.
I'm with you. I was just like, wow, this is completely real, because Bear, the arm wrestling, the main, not Bear, sorry, Bob Bull Harley, that's a real champion.
I believe it, and I also believe that like there is like a championship held in Vegas with these insane rules where you can lose once, but then you're still in the running. So these games must last literally forever. I believe it, but my thing I don't believe is that I bet those rooms are pretty fucking empty. I don't think that they're packing them like they did in this movie. Like you maybe get like 20 people in that room cheering, drinking beer, yelling.
I don't think you understand the full power of a 10-second arm wrestling match. Rick Bull in this, real name is Rick Zumwalt, and he is a massive human being from St. Louis, Missouri, calling it out. Woo, didn't even know that.
Nice.
Yes.
You've got the bull.
And
you've got the bull, we've got the Bears.
And St. Louis also has the Bowling Hall of Fame. Wow, I'm really pushing St. Louis hard.
All right.
Your face right now, you're like, I don't know where to go with that.
I don't know where to even go with that, because I drove through St. Louis before.
Next time you stop there, get some fried ravioli. You won't regret it.
Okay, sounds good. I could do that. So back to the box here. One of the things I think is funny is there's nothing really special about the sides, but Warner Brothers put this tape out. We're looking, I think, at an original 87 tape that Warner Brothers put out for Canon, and they used to do on the top, they would give their genres, and this is listed as an adult action movie. However, flipping it over to the back, this movie is rated PG. So I'm not really sure who they're trying to sell this to.
Really tame adults?
Yeah, because it says adult action as your category, but it is rated PG. And this was in the day and age when PG-13 existed. So
yeah, 84 is when it came about, or 85.
So this is not very much for adults. Oh, and I'm sorry, this is not an original. This is from 1991.
Yes,
so 91 is when.
There might not be an original over from the late 80s because I believe they were having huge financial problems.
So this might be the only.
This
tape
might
that
be
exists.
the only. Yeah, this might be the only OG over the top. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen them when I looked them up because I was wondering the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna flip it over to the back here, and here's our description. Stallone goes over the top to be champ. His 4 Rocky sagas had all America applauding at ringside. Now Sylvester Stallone gives us another reason to stand up and cheer, starring as a down-on-his-luck big rig trucker, Lincoln Hawk, and taking us under the glaring Las Vegas lights for all the boisterous action of the World Arm Wrestling Championship in Over the Top. Like Stallone's Italian Stallion in 1976's Academy Award-winning Best Picture, Rocky, Lincoln Hawk is an amiable underdog, a David in a world of Goliaths. Relying on his wits and willpower, he struggles to rebuild his life, going against the odds as he goes after the World Arm Wrestling Championship's first place prize money and the love of his son, David Mendenhall, he abandoned years earlier. Get ready for excitement as Stallone lands another knockout action film punch, and get ready for good times as you meet a colorful, iron-armed gallery of arm wrestling giants like Rick Zumwalt, the real-life California champion who squares off with Stallone in a to-the-limit finale. Zumwalt explains his fascination with the tension-packed sport this way. I can shake a guy's hand and then try to rip his arm off. After a match is over, we can laugh about it. You got guys from MIT and guys who can't spell MIT, says Stallone about arm wrestling's broad appeal. That appeal and more is vividly captured here. After Over the Top is over, don't be surprised if you want to watch it again.
Wait, is that a quote from Stallone?
Yeah, there's a quote from Zumwalt and a quote from Stallone on the back here.
That says you've got guys... Okay, repeat that again.
You've got guys from MIT and guys who can't spell MIT, says Stallone about arm wrestling's broad appeal.
Is he making fun of it in a way?
I think
tongue-in-cheek?
He's saying, yeah, a little bit. I think he's aware of the ridiculousness of it, but at the same time, it is 87 and ridiculous is cool, so...
Okay. Speaking of one of the stars in this, David Mendenhall, did you know that he's the voice of Daniel in Transformers, the movie?
No. I didn't.
Yeah, you know,
now
when they're yelling,
I
Daniel!
I now know that.
Yeah, he's he's kind of... In the first half of this film, I find David Mendenhall really annoying, and then the second half, I'm like, I'm into him a little bit.
He's pretty good. He's a pretty good kid actor. He's not like the kids actors we have today that are like fucking better than I could ever be, but like, you know, he's pretty good for an 80s kid actor.
Well, you know, I'm a horrible person, and I pretty much hate children actors.
Yeah, I mean... 80s children actors are pretty hard to watch nowadays.
Yeah, some of them. Well, so are 90s. 90s TV children actors are the fucking worst.
Yes. Disney Channel acting is some of the most nails on a chalkboard acting I've ever seen.
So in the beginning of this movie, I immediately was like, oh, God, we're going to follow him the whole time. And then also at the beginning of this film, Stallone is just like, hey, I'm here. Hey, Daniel, I left you and your mom. I'm a truck driver. I was like, why is he so soft-spoken? And then finally, about middle of this movie, they flip it, where I was like, okay, Daniel's getting a little bit better. And Stallone just goes, yep, it's time to get fucking arm wrestling crazy.
Yeah, I think Stallone is actually kind of going for a performance here. He's like, I'm going to be shy and kind of like meek about, you know, meeting my son. He's going for it doesn't quite work, but I can see he's trying, and I'll give him props for that at least.
Yes, and I see this David Mendenhall is in a lot of movies. I believe you and I one day are going to review. I see Space Raiders. I know for a fact that we would love watching this.
That's a Mystery Science staple, right?
Yes, and a Star Wars ripoff that's just stupid fun. I also see that we already did G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And of course, Transformers. We're going to get to that. Potato Head Kids. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but I have.
We talked about that. Yeah, you showed me some of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of things here I'm going to make you sit through. Going Bananas. Also from canon, with my man, Dom DeLuise.
Nice.
Which, by the way, for my birthday this year, Matt gave me a Dom DeLuise, Cooking with Dom DeLuise, and I want to let you know that I finally watched it, and it's gorgeous.
Oh, good. Wonderful. I'm glad that it worked out.
I will post it on our YouTube because I recorded it. It is Dom DeLuise cooking for his family, and his mom and him walking to the grocery stores. Amazing.
Oh, good. Wonderful. I'm glad that one is as much of a treasure as Dom DeLuise himself is.
So Sarah comes back here and she hears me just giggling up a storm. And she's like, "What are you watching?" And I said, "Cooking with Dom DeLuise." And I might have laughed harder at admitting what I was watching.
And then you realized you reached rock bottom. Oh.
No, Dom DeLuise will never be rock bottom.
Not rock bottom in terms of content, just rock bottom in terms of like you now have that VHS and you were just watching that for pleasure.
Yeah.
Like not that it's bad, just that like we're at this point. Like
let's turn to putting this tape in.
And now, our feature presentation.
So there's no trailers on this, which is kind of a bummer because I would have thought with Warner Brothers and Canon we would have gotten at least something snuck in there, but nothing. But thankfully, the movie is quite short, and we just get right into it. Like, so this one kind of moves pretty nicely.
And we get nice shots of the California desert-ish area. I don't know. He's just driving. I think this movie was shot in parts of California and Nevada.
It we talked about how, the beginning of this movie, Stallone is kind of underplaying it and playing kind of a meek, mild guy or whatever at the beginning. There's also sort of just like a real lack of arm wrestling for most of this film's runtime. Like I really thought we would kind of get into that world sooner than we did. And we do get like 2 or 3 arm wrestles before the big finale or whatever, but like this movie doesn't seem to really have much of a focus on the arm wrestling. It has more interest in the father-son story.
Yeah, well, yeah, the beginning, I guess you can cut this movie into kind of 4 easy slices to digest. So we'll just say this is the arm wrestling pie that we got for you. At the beginning, he is traveling through California, Nevada with In This Country from Robin Zander from Cheap Trick. And yeah, it's beautiful, but I was like, oh, are we really trying to sell that like truck driving is like kind of like a beautiful, elegant thing? Freedom.
Yeah, they are. They're definitely saying it's like a man's thing. And this whole movie is like all about like being a man. Yeah. Like and not in like a real way, in like a super 80s way. You know what I mean? Like in an 80s force-fed kind of way. Not in like, be a good person and look out for other people, kind of be a man sort of way. More in like you gotta drive a truck, you gotta know how to arm wrestle, and you gotta stop being a pussy. Like that is the way this movie.
Matt, I don't know if you know this, but the world's never gonna meet you halfway. Which Stallone says in this movie probably, I would legitimately say 6 to 7 times.
And then his son then says it when he's down on his luck in the final like battles in the arm wrestling competition.
And this movie actually hits all the marks of like a very sellable screenplay. Because you have about 3/4 in the movie, Stallone hits his rock bottom,
Yeah, there's definitely an all's lost point. Yeah,
the all's lost point. We have and then the mom officially dying. There's the turn, I think they call it, something like that. Yeah. So when I was watching this, I was like, wow, this really hits the beats. And I think that's why, even though this movie has a real lack of arm wrestling, the pace is pretty good.
Well, there is a reason that Sylvester Stallone won an Oscar for screenwriting. It's because he knows how to hit the marks.
Yeah, and he does it so, okay, break down the film. The first act, we'll do it first act, or the first slice of these 4. He pulls into this, I don't know, little kid military training academy. Pretty much where Jason Bourne was made.
Yeah, there is this, like, because, again, being a man, you have to send your kid to a military academy in order to make him be a man. But he's not manly enough for Stallone still.
Good point.
But, like, this movie starts at a military academy for kids, and was not expecting that. Like, that was the weirdest way this movie could have started for me.
No, you have, like, a little Reaganite, and then you got, I'd say Stallone's more the libertarian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, guns, America, but like freedom, but like stay away from me.
I don't want your big military academy telling me what to do.
Exactly. Yeah, he kind of comes in swinging as the aggressive libertarian here, where the little tiny fucking Reaganite Hitler youth is being crafted at the military academy.
A very high voice Hitler group here.
Yes.
It's like, show me some ID, Mr. Stallone. I don't know you're my father.
And basically the plot of this movie is Stallone is trying to get back, his son, because his ex-wife is dying, and he's never met his kid, ever. He's written him, but he has never met him. And the grandfather is trying to take sole custody of this kid because he thinks Stallone is a scumbag and wants to keep him away from the kid. That's basically the plot is more invested in that than the arm wrestling for an arm wrestling movie.
So the grandfather's name, who comes in because he gets really pissed because once Lincoln Hawk here takes his son on a road trip, and they're going to see his mother basically in the hospital. He's like, I'm gonna pick up a case of something where I go, and you're gonna come with me, and we're gonna go see your mom. Yeah,
who is on her deathbed, and but just really wants to get the kid reunited with the father. Like,
I was
really pushing for that.
Did you ever figure out who was hiding the letters that Hawk?
The grandfather.
Was it the grandfather?
Yeah.
I figured it was. Because that's the only one that would make sense. And the grandfather, played by Robert Loggia, who is just basically yelling this entire film.
I love Robert Loggia. Like, he has nothing to do in this movie.
He always looks like his blood pressure, like he's about to pop.
Yeah, they just probably gave him a bunch of coke and told him to yell at Stallone, and that was kind of it. But like,
where is my grandson?
When he gets a good performance, like when he gets like a good script, like. I love Robert Loggia. I think he can be really great. But in this movie, he has nothing to do. He's just the megalomaniac villain. Like, that's all he is here.
And then we get on the road, and he's like, hey, Daniel, what's the kid's real name? What is the character's name? Oh, Michael. It's like, Mike, you want to go get a burger or something? I know a really great place.
Not a burger, steaks.
A steaks, yeah.
And the kid is afraid of all the salt and carbohydrates in the food.
Yeah, it was really annoying.
Which literally leads to a moment of like, you got to stop being a pussy and eat meat.
Well, Stallone doesn't even make him do that. He's just like, no, you don't want a steak. Don't you know all the cholesterol and salt and everything? And then he orders a tuna melt or something, a tuna salad sandwich. And then Stallone's like, yeah, I'll have that too. I noticed Stallone wasn't pushing... like so far, like his lifestyle on him, but then later there's a switch where he's just like, Mike, you're a rich kid and everyone's done things for you. You got to learn how to do things on your own.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's a little bit of it's, and obviously the movie is agendas with Stallone because they are making fun of the kid. The movie is making fun of the kid by having him say the thing about not eating steaks or whatever. So like.
But within 15 minutes, we get the first arm wrestling match and enjoy it because you're not going to get another one for quite a while. We get him fighting someone called, what is this character? It's a ridiculous name.
More ridiculous than Lincoln Hawk?
Yeah, it's like Smasher.
Let's go with Smasher. I like Smasher. Let's go with it.
All right, I can't find it. Let's go Smasher. Yeah, and then, there is a lot of posturing in arm wrestling. He's like smacking his face, and he's just like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, Lincoln Hawk.
Yeah.
You Hawk? I said, are you Hawk?
What can I do for you?
I'm the Smasher.
Nice name.
And all I've been hearing on the road lately is this Hawk is a man to beat.
I can't believe everything you hear.
I don't believe anything. I got 1,000 that says I could tear your arm off. You want it?
Yeah. Go on. He's trying to back out.
I said, you want it?
Why not?
All right, let's get this table ready. Let's go. Come on. I want to show this guy something. Come on. Let's break his arm.
Are you gonna fight that guy?
I can't talk right now, Mike.
Where are you going?
You gotta go to work.
Yeah. And, like, I have questions about just the arm wrestling in general here. It seems like there's stuff going on in the arm wrestling in this movie that shouldn't be allowed. Like, there's a constant jerking motion, which seems like shouldn't be allowed. Like, sort of the pulling back and forth of one's own arm to bring down the opponent's arm, which it seems like arm wrestling should be just a straight trying to bring down. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's this weird, like, pulsing thing that they do when they fight, and I'm like, that seems like cheating to me.
I don't really think you can actually go over the top like Stallone does either. I'm just assuming. I don't know. They're probably like, hey, Golan, how are we going to make this 5-second match exciting?
He's got to go over the top, which is just, you have your hands interlocked fighting. They're doing the arm wrestling. And over the top is basically just letting go and then putting him back on the hand.
Well, yeah, he goes over the opponent's thumb, which then when you pull on the thumb is naturally anyone is going to go back because it's, once you control someone's thumb, their hand's going to go. It's bullshit, and I don't think it's fair.
It also seems like cheating, yeah.
Yes. But, Rocky couldn't survive 800 punches from Ivan Drago. So it's just like one of those, they have to do something.
Yeah, I understand it has to be something to do for the movie, but it just is begging the question, why did we have to have a movie about arm wrestling to begin with?
I think we're going to start the investigation of Over the Top right now. We're going to go off and start interviewing all the past stars of this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Was Stallone cheating?
I'm sure there is a Shout Factory release about to happen for this anyway, where they're going to talk to the cast and crew, and they're all just going to be like, we don't know what that
I'm pretty
all
sure
about.
most of them, honestly, I'm pretty sure most of them are dead.
Coke was a hell of a drug.
Yeah. I mean, Stallone's alive, but he ain't talking to anyone.
And yeah, he's not going to show up for an interview for this. No way. Not unless they pay him another $12 million.
Oh, good old $25 million budget. 12 went to him, and then the box office was 16. Ouch.
Yeah. That's the beginning of the end.
The box office barely paid for Stallone's celery. Celery.
Maybe it did. Maybe it barely could pay for his celery.
He loves celery juice.
You don't get that jacked on just eating steaks. You know?
You got to work out. I did love his little pulley thing that he had to work out his arm while truck driving. I'm like, that seems safe.
Yeah, right. But at the same time, of course, in this movie, if he's an arm wrestler, he's got to have his arm pump in there to get him ready to go over the top.
So we had some bonding in this. We had Michael just jump out of the moving truck at one point, which I was like, Jesus, kid, you're gonna die. I'm not even gonna care if you die.
I can never track as the movie goes on whether Mike likes Lincoln Hawk or not. Like, he peaks and valleys with him throughout the entire movie in a way that I haven't seen in another movie like this before, where it's like, I love you, you're my favorite, you're the best dad ever, to like, I hope you die. Like, from scene to scene, I can never really track where Mike lands on Lincoln.
So the second part of this is the bonding experience, and this is what you're talking about. So first he lets Mike drive the rig, which I was like, oh, wow, that's not safe at all. And he drives the rig like all the way to, I think this is when Mike gets into the arm wrestling matchup.
Yeah, they go stop for food again at another diner, and there's some kids playing an arcade game, and
a shirtless kid in a sleeveless vest with a mullet.
Yes. And of course, Stallone is like, I got to teach my kid how to be a man. So he instigates an arm wrestling battle between the biggest kid there and his son.
Yeah, best 2 out of 3. Mike loses the first one, and then he's like, "You're making fun of me." And he's like, "No, Mike, you beat yourself. It's about mind over matter." He gives him this speech. And, out of all the sports, I believe this one is where it's most dependent on just plain Jane strength.
Yes, this is not about persistence. This is not about the struggle of the sport. It's not about, pursuing. It is a 10-second battle with whose arm is stronger. Yeah. And clearly this bigger, older kid would annihilate David Mendenhall. Because David Mendenhall is a little pipsqueak.
Yeah, and then he goes back, but of course... Hawk teaches his son how to cheat, and he goes over the top 2 matchups in a row.
Right.
And then he wins. And then I love how Stallone at one time tells the kid to pay up.
Yeah.
Because it was a bet.
Yeah, he's like a 10-to-1 payment, and he's like, all right, I took that bet. Pay up, kid. I'm going to take this little kid's money.
Oh, we forgot to mention, the reason Stallone in the diner takes the original arm wrestling matchup is because he makes a lot of his money on these bets. It's also a gambling. He's gambling to save money for his own rig.
Yeah.
Or at least his own company. I actually think that is his rig.
Yeah, because it says Hawk on the side.
Yeah, so I didn't understand this because at the end he's just like, the only thing that's the most important thing to me is this truck. It's so I can have my own business. But my brain is a little confused. If he already had his rig, wouldn't he have already had a business?
Yeah, I feel like he already has this business that he wants, and it's not lucrative for him, so he has to turn to gambling. But he's gambling so that he can have his business. I'm very confused here as to what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. And I kind of don't care.
Yeah,
except for this podcast, I'd like to explain it to you, but I can't.
Yeah, we can't figure it out. But when you're watching the movie, it's best to just buy it and walk away. Just be like, okay, he needs to raise money for his truck. He wants to be with his truck. Well, and then you just accept it and walk away.
If it would have been if I get a nicer truck, I can get nicer jobs.
Yeah.
So we'll go with that.
Yeah, something like that could have sold a little bit more. But yeah, basically we're just taking it as is here.
So at the halfway point of this film, I would say somewhere around here, Hawk gets Mike to the hospital to see his ailing mother, which I don't really know what she has, but I assume cancer. Yeah,
she's just basically 80s movie gray face in bed, talking really quiet. It could be any disease. It's just an 80s general dying.
Yes, and they get to the hospital and they find out right away that she died in surgery.
Yeah, they're too late.
And the kid brings up a very good point. He's like, Dad, if you wouldn't have taken me on this stupid car ride or this stupid road trip, I would have got to see my mom before she died. And I was like, yes, Mike, you are correct.
Yeah, Mike, you have a very good point here. If you weren't making me arm wrestle in diners against kids who just want to play arcade games, I might have made it in time.
And then the grandpa comes back into the scene because I think at one point, Michael was almost kidnapped by his grandpa's goons.
Yes. Earlier in the movie, after the fight. Right? Or is it right before the arm wrestling fight? Right around there.
Wherever.
One of those. Yeah. The grandfather literally attempts to kidnap this child at one point.
So Mike kind of just needs different parents.
Yeah, I think Mike just needs a fresh start.
Because his grandpa is rich in the rig company. He's beyond truck driving. He, I guess, just has a bunch of truck driving rigs. I don't know. I couldn't figure out what he was, but he has a lot of money and he lives in a really big ass house in Bel Air.
Yeah, he's rich and throws money at all of his problems.
And his dad left him when he was really young, and we don't really know why. It's hinted at it might be drugs, but that's from the grandpa who might be making it up. And then his mom is dying and dies. So his life, probably would be best with the crooked ass grandpa.
I think his life would be better off in like foster care.
Wow.
Like, because these people are nuts. Like, the grandpa literally kidnapped you. And not because he loves the kid, but because he hates Lincoln Hawk. Very wrong reason to kidnap a kid. And then Lincoln Hawk just needs to get his shit together, which, of course, by the end of the movie, spoiler alert, everything works out and he does. But like,
this is what I don't think Golan gets is this movie could have easily, you needed something else, because this movie could have easily been solved with the grandpa going like, oh, you want to be part of his life? Fine, here, I'll buy you a rig. You can work in my company.
Yeah.
So
refuses to do that, though.
Yeah. And then
and so much so that everything is tied up in a neat little bow in literally the movie's last 3 minutes. Yeah. Like, everything is still pretty bad up until about the last 3 minutes of this film when everything gets neatly tied up.
Yeah, and like Mike also brings up another good point, because he was sitting there at one point yelling at Lincoln Hawk. He's just like, what's your plan? What, you're just going to come back in my life? But how are you going to take care of me? Where are we going to live? And Mike makes a lot of fucking good points in this.
Yeah, because Lincoln Hawk does not have a plan at all. He just wants to come back into this kid's life. And but it ends there. His ideas kind of end there.
Yeah, and so the kid gets back to the rich grandpa, and then he finds out that Lincoln Hawk had actually been writing him all the letters. Then we get into Lincoln Hawk's grand plan, which is the last 30 minutes of this film that we find out is to sell his rig, get the money to get into the arm wrestling championship, and bet on himself at like
20 to 1 odds.
20 to 1 odds. This is his plan, folks.
Yes.
So if he just sold his rig, which he did get his hawk, by the way, off the little emblem off the front. I get cracked up. He's like, can I have the hawk?
Yeah, he has to have the hawk.
And then he bet $7,000 on himself. So if he would have lost this, he's fucked.
Yeah, so he can't lose. And this is after he confronts the grandpa and smashes through the gate into the front door and almost killing Terry Funk. Throws Terry Funk through a window.
Yeah, and he gets arrested.
Yes.
And he gets out of jail.
Yeah, this movie takes the time to like show Stallone in jail. And I'm like, oh, was that movie he's in? Lockdown?
Yeah, was that around the exact...
Locked Up? I can't remember.
That was probably like the year before, a year after this.
Yeah, I was like, did we just switch to that movie now?
I've never seen that one.
No, but I've seen the trailer about 100 times because it's on the Weekend at Bernie's tape, and I've obviously worn that thing down to shreds. So,
so they arrest him, but then they let him go because they're planning to give him a deal where they're like, we won't press charges, just walk away from Michael's life. And of course, Stallone's not going to do that. Sells his rig, gets into the championship, and then for the last 25 minutes of this film, it's arm wrestling.
Yes, this is where the sweat and the wetness and just like the widescreen frame that Golan and his cinematographers choose to use for this movie, they push as close to all these sweaty bodies as close as the camera can possibly be.
Yeah.
But this is totally like the thing where, they've got the lights in the background that are like doing the lens flares on the camera. And then you've got this crowd of people just cheering and roaring the whole time. And this is what makes me think and say that, like, if these Las Vegas competitions are real, they don't look like this.
No. This reminds me of No Holds Bar. Remember Hulk Hogan?
Yeah.
At the very end when they had the giant match. I remember all the lens flares. And
this is that. This is, again, what I just think encapsulates 1987 really nicely.
It's not body wrestling. It's arm wrestling.
It's arm wrestling. And the rules for this thing are completely and totally insane. Like, you can lose once, but you are still in the tournament. You have to lose twice to be eliminated.
Double elimination. And we have a shit ton of arm wrestlers here. And man, they are nuts. At one point, one guy drinks motor oil to intimidate Hawk.
Yeah.
Probably could have just stepped out from the break and then come back in, interlocked, and the guy would have just passed out and died.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ooh, that was an easy matchup to win.
Don't drink motor oil, kids.
And it really looks like motor oil. I'm wondering what the fuck they put in that.
Maybe that guy just drinks motor oil. These guys are beefy. These guys are massive in this movie.
Yeah.
They have done all of the steroids in Las Vegas, like, for this competition.
One of the funny... So when Bull and Hawk, arm wrestle for the final championship
Because,
match.
of course, they do. They are telegraphing it with every time they show Bull on screen.
And I couldn't figure out if you're supposed to dislike Bull or kind of like him.
He's undefeated for 5 years, and it's impressive or whatever. But the crowd is booing him, so I think we're supposed to align with the crowd, but we don't really know why.
But at the same time, I mean, he just calls Hawk like a pussy. That's pretty much his I was like, I don't really.
There's probably much worse trash talk happening at these things, I don't know why the crowd is booing him and why we're supposed to hate him so much.
Sometimes in these movies, they'll have the bad guy where you're supposed to be the ultimate bad guy, and then it turns out someone else is. And I thought that was supposed to be the grandpa, but at the end, the grandpa is just like, well, he beat me. Time to walk away and let Hawk have his son. It's very confusing. Who's the bad guy?
Yeah, there's not a lot of stakes here. At the end of the movie, he wins, obviously, the arm wrestling thing, and he gets his rig that he owns, and he's gonna run it with his son, and his son's into it and everything like that. But he did sign over custody to Robert Loggia at one point. Did he just say, all right, he won the arm wrestling match, I guess we're just not going to have custody anymore?
Yeah, there should have been a scene in there where it's just if I win the last arm wrestling matchup, we tear up that agreement, and you let me have custody of my son. So in the end, when he would have won, he could have ripped up the contract in front of everyone.
Yeah, there should have been more stakes involved here because literally, it's the match is over and Robert Loggia's like, all right, I give up.
And he also gives Hawk a really good deal here. So Michael drives himself to the airport.
Yeah, this is why we have the driving scene, so that this can happen.
Sneaks onto an airplane, I think.
Yes, he sneaks onto an airplane with the luggage.
Yeah, and flies to Nevada. Yeah, we forgot this fucking insane little plot. He illegally flies to Nevada, then gets there. Oh, no, wait. Does he drive the train? No, I don't.
He drives to the airport, flies in the airport, and we see him coming out of the luggage chute or whatever.
Yeah.
So we are to assume he flew with the luggage.
Do they show him in a plane?
No, we never see him in the plane, though.
But he gets to Nevada and just knows where his dad is.
He just knows where the tournament is and gets there all on his own.
Yeah. So Hawk hurts his elbow, goes up to the grandpa's suite. Here's a check for $500,000 and a brand new rig. Take it. Do whatever you want with your life. Just leave Michael alone. And Stallone's answer is he just pushes Terry Funk through a window.
Yes.
Which is such a trailer moment.
Yes. But it's not in the trailer.
It's not.
It is a trailer moment, but we just watched the trailer right before this. It is not in the trailer.
It will probably be in Shout Factory's trailer.
Yes, of course.
Yep.
When that eventually does come out.
Then he goes out there and Michael's with him, and Michael reminds him that life will never meet him halfway, and he beats a man who's probably 200 pounds more than him.
Yes. Yeah, that guy's massive. He's a beefcake. He is scary beefy.
Now, I guess we're at already the recommend.
Yeah, I mean, that's the movie. That is it. It is. It's 90 minutes. It flies. I will give the movie props for being as short as it is. I didn't need a 2-hour-long arm wrestling movie.
I'm assuming Stallone, just like with Cobra, decided, no, we got to get the editing down here. Because I think he got Cobra down to 87 minutes so it could play an entire extra time in the theater. And that's how they made their money back. With this one, it's at 93 minutes.
Yeah.
Still,
it's pretty lean.
Yeah.
It's pretty lean. I would say as absolutely ridiculous and stupid and nonsensical as this movie is, it is extraordinarily watchable and kind of charming in just an 80s way. It is just such an 80s movie. You can't hate it. So I'm going to recommend it still, even though it is not a good film. But it's very watchable.
It's a slice of 80s that I also recommend, but I should let you know that this movie's charming in the way that they clearly don't understand what sport is popular in the U.S. Like, this isn't going to go anywhere. They clearly wanted to make another Rocky film where they're like, oh, everyone loves boxing, so let's take arm wrestling and make it big with Stallone. No.
Yeah, that doesn't quite work here. And the movie does, though, live up to its name slightly in that it is just completely over-the-top nonsense, but it isn't as over-the-top as I would have liked it to be, like a Cobra or something like that.
Yeah, these arm wrestlers at the end of this, you have to see it. We can't really describe how insane some of them are, where they're just glistening in sweat.
They're glistening in sweat, and they are walking steroids. Like, that's what you have here.
Yeah, it's wacky.
And I mean, like, they do this thing also at the end of the movie, which I think is a gigantic mistake, but I love, is that they cut in the testimonials of the arm wrestlers as they're cutting through each other, as like we're working through the tournament, and it's like them talking about, and like Stallone does one in character as Lincoln Hawk or whatever as well. I think this is grossly misplaced in this movie, but it's wonderful, and I'm glad it exists here.
Yeah, it was kind of like the pieces in wrestling where they cut their promos.
Yeah.
But this one, like, Bull cuts his promo. He's just like, second place sucks.
Yeah.
It's all about winning. I want to break that person's arm. And then after the matchup, we're cool. But during the matchup, it's war. And then you got Stallone. He's just like, it's not about winning the championship. I just really need this rig.
And the newcomer from the Truckers Division, Lincoln Hawk. Lincoln Hawk, over here.
To tell you the truth, the truck is the most important thing for me. I don't really, it doesn't matter if I become the champion or anything. That's not the most important. I need this truck.
Lincoln Hawk from the Truckers Division.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, then take the fucking rig that the grandpa's gonna give you.
And outside, we do get a few more of these cut-in testimonials, but they don't matter because after these guys get eliminated, they just they serve nothing to the plot. They are just gone. Once they are out of the tournament, they are gone.
Yeah, and it's different. Like, this also reminded me of Bloodsport,
yeah,
another canon film. Except in Bloodsport, all these fighters that they'd go through and they had all their characteristics, they were fun to watch.
Yeah, like Bloodsport is like a Mortal Kombat thing where it's like, you're just watching the fights, but each one is like such a specific character. They kind of try to do that here with this, but it happens so fast and you don't really get anything. And all the guys just look the same, beefcakey guys.
Yeah,
so.
well, what can you do other than like all the showboating beforehand? What can you do to make your technique in arm wrestling different? It's just, lock and pull.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's your movie.
Yeah. You want to hear the movies that were out at the same time as this?
What did we have?
Platoon.
Okay.
Outrageous Fortune. I don't know what that is. Yeah. Mannequin.
Oh, yeah.
Over the Top. So it finished fourth in its first weekend, President's Weekend. We had Black Widow, Crocodile Dundee, but Crocodile Dundee, I believe, was in its sixth week. So that's a little, it was definitely at the end. And then we had Light of Day. Oh, Star Trek 4 was in there too.
Nice. Yeah, we're reviewing this kind of for its anniversary, I guess, here for its 32nd anniversary here. Yeah, because it's February still. That's interesting. But
yeah, let's get to the museum.
This is the second time I've had to reclaim my property from you.
That belongs in a museum.
So do you.
Let's talk about some of our favorite things here. So every week we take something that we like or want to learn from and put it in our museum to look at and admire, or make sure we never make that mistake again. What are you going to put in the museum this week?
Well, this is rough. They didn't do a lot right, but they didn't grossly kill this with anything. So I was thinking about this, and I'm like, well, I kind of like the cover, so I guess if you're going to have a bad action movie, let's go with the cover. But then the arm thing looks kind of weird. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this.
I think putting the poster in, because the cover uses the actual poster art, I think putting that in is definitely valid. It's got a great, judging a book by its cover, it's got a great cover.
Yeah, I would definitely rent this. I'm surprised we didn't as kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's got it all. It's got it all on the cover here. So
yeah, so it's a very lackluster thumbs up poster.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna again not take something from necessarily the film, but something surrounding the film, and that would be the film soundtrack is gonna go in the museum for me. Not because I necessarily love it, but I do think hilariously every song sounds exactly the same, even though there's a bunch of different artists on this. But a bunch of these artists on here are like people that I like the lead singer from Cheap Trick and Asia. I love Asia. So like it's a fun soundtrack, but all of the songs sound exactly the same. My favorite song though in the movie is from Sammy Hagar, which is the over the top theme song called "Winner Takes It All." Over the top theme song. And I said before we started recording this here at the beginning, I said that Over the Top is the film equivalent of the artist behind this song, Sammy Hagar. Sammy Hagar is to music as Over the Top is to movies.
Would you say winner takes it all, loser takes a fall, fight to the beginning of the end is like very, is that who you are?
Yes.
Is it? Are you winner takes it all until he breaks the fall? In time, he'll make it over the top?
Yes, I would say that.
Those are very sophisticated lyrics, my friend, about your life.
From modern day poet Sammy Hagar.
I love that Frank Stallone is in this.
Because of course he is. And this is a movie about Stallone trying to reconnect with his actual son. Yeah. That's what this movie is really about. So it's a family affair.
Yeah, Stallone did not like the soundtrack in this.
I do.
Yeah, so do I. I was like, well, if you're going to do a film like this, like Rocky IV, this is what you do.
Yeah, you have all the pop rock singers of the time come together and do a bunch of super generic sounding songs.
Oh, I mean, these soundtracks from the 80s, I remember the Rocky IV, Transformers, and now I'm going to remember Over the Top.
Yeah, it's a great B soundtrack.
Now, it did win, someone in this did win a Golden Raspberry. Can you figure out who it was?
Was it Mendenhall?
Yes. I love how brutal the Golden Raspberry Awards are. He won 2 for Worst Supporting Actor and Worst New Star.
Nice. Did you see that Holmes and Watson swept the Razzies this year?
That movie apparently is god-awful.
Yeah, I've seen it. I wanted to see it I did a double feature with it, and I'm already forgetting what I saw with it first. Because I wanted to see it as extraordinarily stoned as possible. Because I like Talladega Nights and their duo. So I wanted to see it, and it is not funny. It's like a comedy where just none of the funny works. So I think it is deserving of the Razzies.
Those are the worst. When you have a comedy that nothing hits.
Yeah, just everything misses on that one.
Yeah, a lot of people they'll say horror movies sometimes are the worst movies of the year, and rightfully so. Some of them, like Wish Upon last year, but that was, you said, amazingly fun to watch.
Yeah, no, that movie's amazing.
You had Bye Bye Man, and this year we had things like Peppermint, but nothing hits the right note of horrible, like a comedy that isn't funny.
Yes, and that is what that did.
I always remember Zohan.
Yeah.
That one I watched in the theater because a friend dragged me there, and it was so bad.
I've still to this day never seen it, but I don't like Adam Sandler movies, so I won't ever probably see it.
That's why I was so mad that I went to it, but he was just like, no, I think this one's going to be funny. He's a hairdresser, turned. I don't, you know what? And this is another thing. I can't remember half the movie.
Yeah. That's how I feel about Holmes and Watson, too, where I don't even remember what I saw. And I wasn't that stoned,
It wore off your stomach.
Yeah, it did. It wore it off, and I was just like, all right, I'm ready to go home and go to bed.
Oh, well, that's going to end it for our sports month. Oh, it came so fast.
Yes, it came and went.
So fast.
We had Rollerball. We had Over the Top. We had, I already forgot. What was the other one?
Well, we did Death Wish 4, but that doesn't really count.
The Sport of Hunting Humans.
I don't know.
We had another one. We did another one. You could listen to it. I don't remember what it was, but we talked about some other sports movie.
Well, I had to watch the
Last Boy Scout, which is a movie I love. I just forgot that we did it for this month. We did Sports Month, and this is the end of that. We're going to move on to March, which is my month to pick, and I have chosen to do all noirs. So we're going to go into Noirch.
I do like the name of it.
We're going to start Noirch next month.
And come back next week for a positive film.
Yes, we're going to start heavy with Noirch, and I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with what we have a lot of fun with this month.
Yeah, this movie's pretty rough. Coming up. I don't care what Matt says.
I've got some thoughts. I've got some thoughts. So you got to come back next week to hear my thoughts. But this week is Over the Top. We finished it. I'm glad I finally got to see this movie, even though I don't love it. I think it's still pretty 80s wonderful. So I lightly recommend it, and I enjoyed myself watching it.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching it. I had a lot of fun. Even though I couldn't come up with something super positive for it.
Yeah, the poster's pretty great. Yeah. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So you can subscribe on iTunes, Podbean, a lot of other things if you want to listen to us. YouTube, it will pop up on that. We love it when you rate and review us, and when you email us at analogjonestof@gmail.com. We will respond, or at least Matt will.
Yeah, maybe. depends on my week. But yeah, definitely write in and stuff, and write in on the Facebook too. We have some discussions about stuff on there. We love hearing from you. We love hearing your thoughts on what we're doing. So keep in touch, everybody.
That's right. Do that. And remember that in April, Matt's Windy City Horrorama is coming up. So if you want to watch some sweet ass horror films that you probably would have a hard time seeing anywhere else.
Yes.
Do it.
Yeah, you're going to, even if stuff is going to come out, we're going to have it a lot sooner than it does come out. So you're going to see it before anybody else, which is amazing. And then we're going to have some stuff that may never come out. So you've got to come see it. And we're going to have some really fun repertories. The schedule at this point, at the end of February here, is just about locked at this point. So we know what we're going to be playing. We're very excited about it. And at the end of March, you'll be able to find out what those titles are when we put our program together. Yeah, we're very excited about it. It's going to be a really good time. It's going to be great guests, great Q&As, amazing parties. We throw the best parties. Like, if I'm going to pat myself on the back, yeah, we put together an amazing lineup, but we also put together some fucking awesome parties. So come hang out with us. It's April 26th through the 28th at the Davis Theater. I'll be there. I'm sure Steve will be there. You can bother us about Analog Jones stuff too. We love to talk movies. So it's going to be a really fun weekend. Come hang out with us, and we'll see you then.
Come back next week, and remember to be kind.
And rewind.
Mr. Paris, set a course. Set a course.
Set a course for the unstoppable Jack and Jen podcasting the impossible.
Star Trek Voyager being the material. Wine is the vehicle, just like milk for your cereal.
Here we go, blast into the Delta Quadrant. Uncharted territory, but we're on it.
So pour me another glass of Cabernet, cause it pairs well with zipping across the galaxy. Never in my life was a cruise so brave.
Never was a time that I lacked rosé.
But you learn something new each and every day.
To explore new things is a Starfleet way.
Podcast hailing from the Geekscape Nation, talking Star Trek with the wine persuasion.
So you wanna live long and prosper fine? Then you better tune in to 7 of Wine.
And this is 7 of Wine, where we review an episode of Star Trek Voyager and a bottle of wine at the same